Hi, Jewish moms. This past week, in preparation for Purim, then my dear teacher, Rabbi Imam Mizrahi, was talking about Amalek and talking about what Amalek did to us. You probably know that Haman, he is a descendant of Amalek, which is why we're talking about Amalek now. So what did Amalek do to us? So Rabbi Imam explained that what Amalek did, the worst thing that he did, was that he took Hashem's name. So the Hashem's name, the four-letter name of God, is Yud Kei Vav Kei, Yud Hey Vav Hey. So what Amalek did is he left us just with the first half of the name, with the Yud Hey, right? So Yud Hey in Hebrew, if you want to say it was, then you say Haya, which is Yud Hey. If you want to say it will be, you say Yihye, that's a Yud Hey. But if you want to say if you want to say something, if you want to say it is, it's Hoveh. It is Hoveh. And so what Amalek did to us, he took away the Vav Hey in God's name. He took away the present, meaning that the worst thing that Amalek did to us was that he took away was that he left us in a situation where all we could do was say Ma'yeh, what will be, and Mahaya, what was, and not what is, out of the what is. As we all know, like when you're thinking about the past, most of the time what we're thinking about, like we're not usually being nostalgic about the past. What tends to be when you're thinking about Mahaya, you're like, Mahaya, what was? You're thinking about an experience that angered you, an experience that was traumatic, an experience that was difficult, an experience that was upsetting to you. And when you're thinking about the future, usually we're not thinking about planning, a simcha or a child's wedding or a wonderful thing. Usually when we're thinking about the future, we're worried. What's gonna be? My yay. Okay. And when we're thinking, but the thing is, what happens is, we get stuck in that. We get stuck in what was. Oh, it was so terrible. And what will be. Oh, it's going to be so terrible. I'm so nervous, right? We're so rarely, I'm talking about myself right now as well. I'm so rarely in the Hoveh, right? Amalek hit me really, really hard. Amalek really dealt me like a really bad blow. Like I have a very, very hard time being in the Hoveh, being here right now. So this past Shabbat, this was Parshat Zachor, and so I went with my family to shul, to hear Parshat Zachor, and I just went in for like a second to hear Parshat Zachor and left very quickly, to get back to my younger children who are too noisy to attend the shul, but much like I was listening to it and just with this thought from Rabbi Imam in my mind, much tears came to my eyes. What a tragedy it is for me. How deep I am stuck within Mahaya v'Mayeh, what was and what will be, right? And so rarely here, like in the pleasures of the present. I read recently in Family First magazine, they had this really interesting article about happiness and scientific research on happiness. Unfortunately, I can't find the issue, but as I remember it, one of the things that was quoted in the article was research regarding happy memories. And researchers found that what researchers did is they asked people to sit down for a few minutes and write all the details regarding a really humdrum memory, right? So they had them write down. Okay, tonight I put the kids to bed. Everybody brushed their teeth except Yaakov. He didn't agree to brush his teeth. And this one, all of them put on pajamas except for so-and-so who refused to put on her pajamas, okay? Something really boring and humdrum like that, okay? And then also ask them to write about a really dramatically happy memory, like my wedding day, and and I had such a beautiful dress, and everyone was there, and my grandmother Zichron Avracha was there, and she gave me a special blessing, like a sort of dramatic, amazing, once in a lifetime memory. Okay, so 3 months later, I believe it was 3 months, they had the person who wrote the two memories, had the person read those memories, read what they had written, and in almost all cases, what brought the person more happiness, more joy, was reading about the humdrum, like this one wouldn't brush his teeth, and this one wouldn't put in pajamas, and this one da-da-da. right? Just reading the humdrum. It brought, like looking back, it brought us so much joy to remember the details. But the thing is, the question is, how do you access that joy now? Like when you're in it, and this one won't brush your teeth, this one won't brush his teeth, and this one won't put in pajamas, and you're like just going through like the humdrum of life, like one day after another, after another, after another. You know, how do you access the joy then? I have this, I live in this beautiful neighborhood, Nachlaot, and it's a neighborhood with serious issues, as many of you will probably remember. But it's actually like just like it's a very like picturesque neighborhood. It's an old neighborhood, and many times, like when I'm walking around, there's lots and lots of tourists around, but also there's a lot of painters. There's a lot of like people just sitting painting the beautiful Nachlaot like buildings and trees and beautiful like quaint alleyways that are in Nachlaot, and sometimes I look at those people and I'm like, wow, like I look at what they're looking at, and it's something like just on Friday I walked by a woman and she was painting a certain archway, and I just looked at it and I was like, wow, like I never noticed that archway. It was an archway with sort of a circle in it, like sort of a stone archway with a circle in the middle. It's like, wow, never noticed that before. But the thing is, like when I watch it, I just thinking like, wow, this is a person who's really, really present. Like she's really, really there. She's in the whole way. Like Amalek didn't get to her. Amalek didn't take away her Hoveh. She's like in it. She's like right there, really fully being in it, right? But what do you do like if you're not like an artist? Like some people are artists and they can be in that like really like like drawing the present, or I'm like I happen to be like I'm a writer, so I can like write about what's happening right now. It's helpful. But the truth is, even as a writer, like 99.9% of my life is not taking place. It's not taking place like with my hands on the on the, what do you call it, the keyboard of the computer, right? 99.9% of my life, or at least 99 point I don't know my life, is taking place with life. With kids and doing errands and taking care of the house and taking care of the kids and doing like just living my day-to-day humdrum mothering life. So how do I access that? How do I access like what that painter accesses, like, or what I access like when I am writing about my life? How do you live that way? And I just had like a nice memory this past Friday when I was getting ready for Shabbat. And I was remembering years and years ago, I think probably it was at least a decade ago, maybe more. Then there was a group of women who would get together. There's a group called Magirot. It was a group called Drawers. Since then, this group has been banned because they would have us say like, it was sort of like this weird kind of cleaning thing. Like they would have us like while we would clean a drawer, we would like say like these sort of weird mantras. It was a bit of a weird group, and now in retrospect, I realize why the rabbis like said it really wasn't so kosher. But there's one thing that I think was really good about this group. It was like a nice exercise which has stuck with me. I don't always do it, but when I do it, it's quite wonderful. It's something that they would call seer, meaning pot. Okay, so what is pot? Pot is what they would have us do on like when we were cooking, especially on Fridays and like the hectic Friday, pre Shabbat rush, they would say like what you do is you put on a pot to cook something, and you don't start something new until you're all done making that pot of food. Right, because usually what we do, like you cut an onion for this one, and then you're running around and then while that's frying, then you start like making the sauce for the chicken, and then while you're making and then you put that in, and then you stir the onions then, which are by then burning, and then you put on the then you start sauteing the green pepper. And go back to the onions, which are really burnt by now. Like it's always like this very hectic, like you're sort of in a rush. What they would say in this group of the drawers group is they would say, they say do it pot by pot. Let's say you have to make an onion, you have to fry an onion, you do the onion, then you do the potatoes, then you do whatever. Like you continue until with that one pot until you're actually done making it, right? And then what do you do in the meantime? Like let's say you have like a few minutes while things are cooking. So then you clean off the counter. You can unload the dishwasher. You can a little bit, I don't know, sweep up, but you don't, just doing things pot by pot by pot. And it sounds like this, you're probably hearing this and thinking this is insane, because how will you ever manage to get everything you need to done and everything you need to get done if you're just doing pot by pot? It doesn't make sense. Kind of Jenny. I'm never going to be done in time. But what I realized, I did this for several years, and I try to continue doing it now. Is what happens is it actually does not take more time. It actually takes, because what happens is like the time that you would be spend like cleaning your counter, then you actually do it during the cooking, right? Because usually you usually get a cooking done and then you rush to clean the kitchen. Well, now your kitchen is clean, and then you've done you've done your cooking in a relaxed fashion, pot by pot by pot. I'm just sharing this because I think it would be very nice to live life seer. To live life like our humdrum mothering life. I think we'd enjoy it much more if we could just do it sort of just like savoring what is, like sort of banishing the Amalek, banishing the Maye, what's going to be, what was, sort of just being in it, relaxed. And you have to change a diaper. Okay, I have to change a diaper. And you have to get this child. Okay, I have to get this child dressed. And I know that you have to, give the kid. You have to feed the kids. Okay, now I'm feeding the kids. I'm sitting with them. I'm being with them. Just sort of living life more seer. And I know that this sounds quite impossible. Like, what? I'm under so much stress and there's so much to get done. But even if you a little bit, 5 minutes of your day, be in seer mode. I think it's something that really, it's something as the years pass, I see like I'm living my life little by little, more and more kind of in seer mode. It's a much nicer way to live, a much more present way to live. Even though I have like a long way to go, as I said. But I think it's very, very helpful. So I want to bless all of you Jewish moms with an amazing Purim. And that B'ezrat Hashem we should see a lot of nisim, a lot of miracles in the spirit of the Purim miracle, and a lot of nahafochu. The world really needs nahafochu. And so I want to bless all of us that we should be living life more, pot by pot by pot. We should thoroughly banish Amalek from our lives and bring the Hoveh, bring the Yud Vav of Hashem's name back into our lives. And bless all of you Jewish moms with an amazing week.